Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the In Tune with Joon podcast. I'm your host, Joon. Today, we have a wonderful panel of people, including a newcomer. Let's start with the newcomer, introducing the lovely Ms. Zara. How are you doing, Zara?
I'm great, thank you.
Wonderful, and it's good to have you on the podcast for the first time, but we do have some regulars. So let's start with the most irregular, Keon. Keon, welcome back to the podcast after doing the one-on-one. How are you doing?
I'm great, man. Just staying healthy, but I'm great, and I'm glad to be back. Thank you for inviting me back.
It's good to have you. Trust me, we are much happier. Much happier. Now, Baptiste, how you doing, buddy?
Good. How is everyone? Glad I could be of service again this week.
No, it's fantastic. I'm glad that we can see your head from the nose up. All right, so Monica. Actually, we have Daria and Monica, but let's start with Daria. Why not? Daria, how you doing, buddy?
Hanging in there.
That's great, as we all are, as we all should be. And last but certainly not least, the lovely, the beautiful Monica Sam. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing great myself. Thank you for asking. So this week, what are we talking about? Well, as you can see on the notepad that I haven't filled out yet, we're going to be talking about the world post COVID-19. So when we go back, what are things going to be like? Will social norms change? Will how we work change? We're going to be talking about topics that fall probably mostly in those two categories because we're not experts in others, and that is probably where we're going to see a lot of personal anecdotes. We have people from all kinds of different backgrounds. We have composers, we have PAs, we have soon to be working in the law. We have young businessmen over there on the left. We have teachers. We have people working in creative industry. It'll be an interesting little conversation. So, does anybody want to start, or do I have to call out someone about how they think their profession will change after this COVID-19? Would anyone like to start us out here?
Good question.
Okay, so Keon, is that you? Are you volunteering?
I was gonna say. I've been thinking about it a lot about my profession due to the fact that I'm in the film industry, so it's just different types of people that I'm interacting with constantly, and it's not like I'm the same gig and I'm meeting the same people. So there's definitely going to be some sort of change. I don't know when it's going to happen. And I actually don't know when we're going to get back on track shooting movies, TV shows, commercials. So right now I'm unemployed and I don't know when I'm ever going to be employed again. So that's where I'm at the moment.
Okay. Well, maybe I can preface the conversation with how our state, at least Keon and I and Baptiste and Monica, we all live in the same state. And Daria, how could I forget? So the majority of us live in California. Okay. California has rolled out phases in how they're going to reopen the economy. Phase 1 is going to start as of Friday in 2 days. And that is going to be sort of curbside pickup for non-essential businesses such as clothing, sporting goods, florists, just in time for Mother's Day. So get your mother some flowers curbside. And the second phase would be opening up places that are not areas where you're likely to be high risk. So not a large concentration of people. So areas where you can socially distance. I would imagine, this is not fact, restaurants that have 6 feet away table seating, bowling alleys that have, every other lane open, something like that. And then the final phase is phase 3, and that would be high-risk businesses opening, such as, for example, dental offices. So right now, dental offices are areas that are high risk because you're in very close proximity to the patient, and there are aerosols being spewed out from the patient's mouth because you're working in their mouth, right? So I believe these are the 3 different phases in how we're going to reopen. So Keon asks, I don't even know when. I would imagine that social distancing on set would be difficult, right?
Yeah. Oh, dude, it's not even. I mean, social distancing on set, that's impossible.
Okay.
I mean, like, it varies too from what type of projects you're working on. So it's just, in my opinion, how can you contain such sort of diverse group to not first do their task and social distance at the same time? To me, I don't get it.
In other words, you're a high risk group, you think?
Oh, most definitely we're a high risk group, and especially like we travel all around Los Angeles looking for the people like shooting different locations. Like we're not in uh, a certain place or a studio. Sometimes we shoot on location, so we don't even know what's been going on in that location prior to shooting. So it's just, in my opinion, it's a toss up on what's going to happen. I feel like there's going to be a lot of changes. There has to be a lot of changes on like how many people are on set, how many people are working with actors, how many people are working. It's just they need to like really look into like how many people can work, and it's gonna suck because there's so many people working in the industry, so it's gonna be a lot harder to find jobs, in my opinion, after this pandemic or social distancing thing.
So you raised an interesting point. You're like, if we're going to encourage social distancing post COVID-19, once we're reopening the economy, that sort of implies, to me at least, that we're getting rid of anybody who doesn't need to be here. That kind of mentality. As long as there are less people, we can more easily social distance. So finding a job could be harder. So I'm actually going to write that in the changes, that it could be harder to find work. Do you think that's reasonable?
Yeah, I'd say it's reasonable, but at the same time, I've talked to so many people that have said that working at home, like keeping their jobs and working at home, sort of is a lot better. So I feel like at the end of this, you might see a lot more companies asking people to work at home because it's a lot more of a safer choice. It's easier for them to work. It's healthier for them to work. They get more sleeping hours.
Yes.
I just feel like there's going to be a huge change in like how we're going to work with other people and how people are going to like go to work and everything. I
wanted to ask Baptiste about this eventually, and you put a natural segue into it. So right now, Baptiste, you're working from home. Are all of the employees
from home?
Yeah, actually, just go for it.
Yeah, we've been working from home the whole. So we're like a big company, real page, like in the U.S. and worldwide. But our little San Diego office, we've been working from home since it started in like beginning of March. Everyone. So at first, they wanted to do like a 50% in the office, 50% at home, and then you switch every week. But then, like as it got worse, of course, like with the media and everything, we're like, all right, you know what? Fuck that. Everyone stay at home. And we were allowed to bring our monitors, like anything we needed. They would be like, yeah, we'll pay for your keyboard if you need a wireless mouse. So they've been really good about it. And we have noticed that like productivity has not gone down at all. So they're like, yeah, everyone can work from home if we need them to. And they would reduce office costs, maintenance costs, like a smaller office space, which would save you so much more money. So this is definitely like a big wake up call, I think, for companies like Keon. You said that like a lot of people don't need to come to offices to work. They can wake up, log on, and do the same amount of work if they have the tools they need to be just as productive, which is pretty much what we're doing right now. And I've never been busier, to be honest. So it's like they know we're productive, so they're giving us even more work, which is good. So like at least I'm not bored, which is nice.
You touched on a lot of
companies are.
Yeah, you finish your thought. My bad.
No, that was pretty much it. I mean, just like I definitely don't think I'm going to go back to the office till 2021.
Wow. Okay.
In my opinion, for me, I think.
Okay. That's a powerful sentiment. And I'm glad that you're sharing it, because here I want to remind the audience, we're sharing our opinions, right? We're not saying any of this is set in stone. We're all just giving our perspectives as people who are affected by COVID-19 and how we think the world is going to be post COVID-19, as is said in the title. So you answered a lot of questions that I wanted to ask you. I wanted to ask you, what's your productivity like? Do you think the myth is going to disappear that if you're working from home, you're all lazy or not going to be productive and this and that? Now, another question I wanted to ask you before shifting gears towards someone else maybe is what are the detriments of working at home? What's the downside? What do you think?
Oh, yeah. Well, so yeah, before this whole COVID-19 thing, we were allowed to like work from home like once every Friday, like every 2 weeks. And for sure, I was lazy on those Fridays. Like, I won't even lie.
Okay.
I'll be like, oh, yeah, I'm at home. I can do whatever I want. So, but now, since it's like every day I'm at home, I feel obligated. Like, I can't just like slack off really. I would say the detriments is like, just the boringness of it. Just oh, I got to wake up again at 8, clock in, and then I'm working until 5 p.m. And then I'm just gonna watch TV today, and then I'm gonna go to bed at 10:30, and then I'm gonna do it all over again. And it's been like that for 2 months now.
Okay.
So I will say just the boringness. It is nice to have roommates that you can hang out with, of course. But my other roommate, he was living alone for about 2 months before we moved into our new house, and he was gonna go crazy, you know. So I will say just the loneliness. It is nice to be in an office, the camaraderie and everything. It's fun, but yeah, just the you are alone doing your own work. You feel kind of like alone in the world, but you get used to it, so it's
Oh,
not that bad.
actually, yeah, that the whole idea of, I hate my coworkers or I love my coworkers, that could totally
Yeah,
determine how you view work at home. So the people
yeah.
who maybe, does anyone else here have coworkers? And they want to talk about their coworker, Zara. Okay, Zara raised her hand very politely. Okay, so Zara, um, coworker culture. Let's say that Baptiste's hunch that more people will be working from home after COVID-19 is true, and I think more likely than not it will be. What do you think? What effect do you think this will have on coworker culture?
God, one huge part of my job is that I love to bounce ideas off of coworkers just all constantly. Um, so I'm really struggling with if I want feedback from anything, I have to email them and then I have to wait for their response. When before I could just like turn around and, you know, completely disrupt someone else's work, but like ask for their feedback. And we would have conversations like during tea time and everything, and we would. It just felt like we were more on the same page. Now it feels like we have weekly meetings over Zoom, but it it is tough to kind of figure out like what you haven't told or who's in the loop of certain things or certain projects. Um, and it is kind of lonely. Like I miss
Yeah.
just I don't know. It is lonely. It is really sad to not have because I'm friends with my coworkers as well. So
Yeah, same.
I've been trying to like WhatsApp with them, but it's not the same.
Yeah.
And we tried to do like worker drinks after work, but that's only happened once since this all started. So it's tough. And also my work revolves around. So I am a marketing and events coordinator for a university alumni network.
Okay.
So that means that um, and usually we do events for alumni to get them together so they can talk to each other and we can bring new people into the alumni network. But now we're having to do that via Zoom and kind of I think Zoom and all of these different platforms are great for people that you already know. It flows a lot better and it's fine for that kind of stuff. But then when you want to meet new people or like bring new people in, build new relationships, um, it's really difficult, especially if you have like a Zoom call with 30 people and then there's two new people. They're not really going to contribute as much.
Hmm.
So we're trying to figure out kind of how to deal with those sorts of difficulties right now, and we're thinking of new ideas. I think it's definitely kind of allowing for more innovation moving forward, but there's some bumpy bits to sort out.
So I like a lot of what you said. I think there are two things I want to touch on. So my friend works as a college counselor, and he suggested using Discord rooms as a way of setting up quote unquote offices because each counselor has their own office. You make an appointment, you come in the office, you leave. What Discord rooms are essentially there are channels that instead of doing a direct call like we are right now, you could just sit in that channel and you could have your microphone on, you're listening, and whoever wants, they can pop in and pop out. I think it'd be interesting for companies to employ that sort of thing. It's like, okay, well, while you're working, you have to hop in a Discord channel, and if a coworker wants to contact you, they can be able to do that. They can just hop in your channel and say, hey, do you have a minute? And they wait for you to respond, and maybe they text you, and you're easily available, kind of like being in person, and you tap on their shoulder, but virtually. I think maybe that can amend some, excuse me, that can amend some of the, no, not you, Siri. Stop it. Anyway, that can amend some of the, email delays or not getting instant feedback. Another thing I wanted to touch on, another friend says that a 40-year-old man just joined their team. He has no idea what he looks like. He has no idea what he sounds like. He has no idea what his interests are. And they're supposed to be collaborating on these projects. And, they haven't been in direct contact yet. And he's like, it's weird. Like, and it's different. So I do think that that might be a difficulty, like having new workers who start working from home. Like how are you going to get adjusted to coworker culture? Keon, is that you raising your hand or are you chilling?
Yeah, I'm raising my hand, but you can
go for it.
Finish with
my thoughts.
I was just gonna.
Yeah.
I just was gonna like sort of because Zara, like, I mean, this is very new. So like, don't you think that like it's sort of like adapting to this new circumstances sort of is the reason why it's sort of like all over the place, meeting people over Zoom and Discord? Don't you think like maybe in a couple months from now, people will be so used to like talking over this, like it'd be easier to meet people over the Zoom or Discord or have some type of meeting or interview over this? Because I understand that, I mean, nothing's perfect, but this is, I think, a really, we're still like baby face of the whole like quarantine pandemic thing. And I feel like this is going to last for a good couple months, maybe a year. So I just feel like with this, do you think there's going to be a progression in talking to people over Zoom or Discord or any other platform that will be created within this time? I don't know. I just because I get what you're saying, and it's really, I mean, it's hard to do what you're doing, especially over over Zoom or Discord. So I just want, like, do you have any do you have any hope that in the future, like, it's going to be better? Because, I mean, that's my.
I think we're already trying to implement certain things to make it a bit easier. Like, we're going to be using Zoom breakout rooms for our next kind of alumni get-together, so that people who, because I think personality does play a role in things like who participates in a Zoom call. So we want to kind of break those down and kind of do smaller gatherings, because it's really difficult to do a bigger gathering with 30, 40, 50 people, and for everyone to, because you don't have that time where you can break off and have conversations with different people. So we're going to try and use like breakout rooms to get people who are more established in the alumni community to be matched with people who aren't so much so like kind of familiar with everyone, and then try and get them onto the same page as everyone else. But I think, we're planning, our organization is planning as if this is going to continue for a longer period. And we're trying to innovate, and we're not relying on the fact that, we're going to get, we're going to all be back in the office in a certain amount of time, because that can just be a waste of time. So you got to kind of, plan for the worst case scenario. And I think it's working out. And I think there are waves of people where, some people are just saying, I have no clue how to do my job now, because, everything's different. And then other people who are kind of getting this new burst of energy and saying, we'll now implement all of these new projects, and we can take advantage of these virtual kind of summits and webinars that are going on and meeting new people through that. And so I think it really ranges, especially with personality.
Yeah. Okay. So this was go for it, Keon. Oh, sorry.
No, I was just like, the last thing you said really brought something like meeting people and like interventions or conventions and bring people on a virtual like space might be an easier way to meet people. I feel like at the end of the day, like if someone from India can't make it to a convention, but he can literally log into his computer and he can meet someone who's from the United States and they're in the same convention, that'd be something cool, right? I mean, like at the end of the day, like we're meeting people. Connections is the most important thing, and if we can make a connection that easy all the way over, I just feel like this can push into something a lot greater than. Very cool, very cool.
I think someone has an echo. Anyway, hopefully that'll get resolved. Monica, it looks like it's you. So Daria, I haven't heard from you, my dude. As a composer, do you see the world post COVID-19 as anything too different from what it is right now?
For answer that, maybe we should fix the echo.
It's Monica. Monica needs to put earphones on.
I do have my earphones on.
Testing. Oh, yeah, no, it's still there. A heavy echo from Monica. Do you have echo suppression enabled?
I should. I didn't change any settings.
I have echo cancellation on my end, but I have a really strong echo coming from you.
Right. The reason why we know is that your thing is always green.
Exactly. Okay, well, I guess we'll take a quick break to figure this out. We're going to run a brief 30-second ad, but we're not sure how long we'll be on break. We'll be back as soon as we can. And we're back. Thank you guys for being patient. We figured out the technical difficulties, and it looks like we are back in action. I wanted to shift gears towards maybe it's easier to ask Daria the question once again. So the question was, as a composer, do you feel that your life post-COVID-19 will be any different than it is pre-COVID-19?
Yeah, I mean, I guess in the music world, the whole music is a collaborative art. You need, much like filmmaking, you need to be, like Keon's saying, it's kind of impossible to. It's a high risk environment. I guess it would be considered phase 3 or whatever, especially symphony orchestras. I think as composer, it's tough because if you're working with other musicians to bring your music to fruition, you need to be pretty much in close contact, like less than 6 feet away. You need to kind of see the instruments, and there's a lot of like technical things that go down where it's just close contact is what's required to solve them, I don't know if the orchestras are going to be allowed to reconvene. If I can already state that at UCLA there was problems of like the music classes have been completely canceled. We've been doing them virtually, but that's not really that helpful. You can't really. You have to use, especially when you have to use your 10 fingers and you have to hold the thing correctly or sit correct, all that stuff is, you have to do that in person in close contact, So I wouldn't know, maybe I was thinking maybe art is going to get really, or the collaborative arts are going to become really individualistic, very solitary. That's possible. It's kind of a frightening thought. Because that's not really, we've made it so far. Yeah. It'll be regressing if you make everybody one instrument.
So you think that this has no possible positive effect on your profession?
No, I think the cons will outweigh the pros. You know, like
I didn't hear
so
many
just
pros. That's why I asked. So what are the pros then?
oh yeah, I guess the pros are like. I mean, I have a hard time seeing them. I'll be honest.
Okay.
So I don't really have any pros right now to give you. That's really tough. Maybe just more time to practice, more time to write music. That's a pro. Um, but making a living will be tough.
I see.
Like how are you supposed to teach? Music is a very hard thing to teach from a distance,
Okay.
if not impossible. So what is that? Already in schools, I think we were talking last time. Monica was saying the STEMs are taking over. They're just
Okay.
talking about eradicating art completely, just leaving the STEMs,
Okay.
at least for this period, right, Monica?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's probably going to carry on over to life in some way. Yeah.
So you talked about teaching, and that is a delightful transition to what Monica could potentially share with us. Do you see, let's say that for the time being, we see universities talking about online classes in the fall. We see high school is not considering reopening. So how do you think the future of teaching will be changed, Monica? And you can comment on whether you like it, whether you don't like it, but let us know your thoughts.
So yeah, they're not opening schools until I believe July or June, but obviously, summer schools are canceled as far as I was aware. So realistically, we're not going to be returning back into classrooms until fall at the earliest or latest. I think right now is it's a time where you're kind of putting teachers to the test to see how kind of caught up they are and how well they're able to teach on their feet, so to speak. So you're having a lot of teachers who were well prepared and said, yeah, like I already have backup plans for like online learning in case if like the Wi-Fi went out at school. So you have other teachers, on the other hand, who are like kind of old and not necessarily tech savvy, and they're really struggling on, teaching their students on, from their home. I think that this is going to really influence, hireability later on because they're going to be, asking teachers, are you prepared for online learning or remote learning or alternative instruction? What are your plans on how to differentiate classes? And also, do you have the ability to teach to your students who have IEPs and special needs from their homes? Are you able to, tackle on all these challenges? For me, I don't necessarily enjoy the alternative instruction, especially as a STEM major myself. It's really hard to keep up. I mean, I had an A in my class, and right now I'm kind of at a C, which I'm not totally proud of. And it's definitely taking a toll on how much material I can process and retain. And I can only imagine how hard it is for high schoolers who are, starting to get on their feet and figuring out where they want to go in life. And I just kind of feel bad that, you're kind of put all this stress and you're trying to figure out and maneuver like this whole new way of learning while you're getting started. So I do think that the art of teaching really relies heavily on, that interpersonal connection that you have with your teachers. So I'm not necessarily excited about this whole new online transition.
Okay. So from what it sounds like, teachers just need more qualifications now. This scenario has proven to be a testing ground, like you said, and perhaps those who aren't cut might be replaced. I think that's kind of what I'm hearing. I'm also hearing that if you're not a tech savvy teacher, you might not consider going into teaching at all, because all of a sudden you need to get used to, if you weren't already, preparing online classes. And like you said, the online classroom differs greatly from the in-person classroom. And the concerns that you brought up about kids with disabilities in classrooms, I cannot imagine the amount of education and preparation you need to make an online classroom that is that accessible. Now I see Keon raising his hand, so I want to let him speak.
No, I mean, you were just bringing up the points that I wanted to bring up and ask Monica on her opinion. Do you think it's because we even brought it up in I think the past podcast about private versus public universities? You think it's even is there a point to even spend so much money and go to university, or do you think the universities are cut down their tuition fee, and they should really reevaluate how to re-educate the kids and how much money they should put in it? You know what I mean? Or
so are you asking for university point of views or just school in general?
Just in general, for a student, do you think it's worth it now to pay for universities to go into university and learn everything online, basically for the next semester, supposedly, because that's going to happen fall semester and maybe even spring semester. So I'm just maybe for the whole school year. So I just want to ask you that.
Well, I mean, I don't think that it's realistic to kind of put a pause on school because, it's really important to stay in school. So I'm in a situation where, my fall classes, I got an email saying that large lectures are going to be moved into online classes and smaller lectures could be face-to-face at the discretion of the professors and teachers. So it's a really interesting thing because right now we're kind of moving into an age where we're already trying to transition kids into studying online. So that's why you're seeing all these kids with Chromebooks and there's all these class dojos or Google Classrooms and online assignments. So for the most part, I think these kids have luckily already been immersed into online learning. And I think that it definitely at the high school and elementary and middle school levels, it's important to do this because, for them, it's kind of setting them up for how they're going to be learning in the future. And for us in college, I think it's kind of pointless because we're already so used to learning in person and learning in a certain way. And especially at the university level, it's kind of why are you doing this whole new thing? Because, obviously it's not the time to be learning. This isn't going to be applicable to our futures. So for example, when you have someone who is like Daria, if you're a music major, when you have to be in person to conduct and participate in all these things, it's kind of pointless to have Zoom conferences. Obviously, audio is not going to be the same as when you're in person. So right now isn't the time to experiment. However, when you have a field like computer science, obviously you're going to benefit from it. So I think it really depends on which major you're in. For my major, where obviously learning, I think it's kind of ironic because I took a class where we had to actually learn about online resources in the event that we had to teach remotely. So I told myself this is pointless, this is dumb, because I don't see any situation where I would be needing to teach my kids online. And now I'm saying, well, crap, it was a good thing I took that class because this was really useful. And now I'm not going to be screwed when I go apply for a job and they're going to ask how I would deal with this pandemic.
Nice.
So to answer your question, I don't think it's entirely pointless. I think it just kind of depends on your career path. And hopefully you would have faculty who have better sense on implementing these things and deeming it necessary or not.
But the money issue. That's the biggest thing. I just feel like money at the end of the day is you're spending money for the education. Don't you want the return back, the right return back? You don't want half-ass stuff. At the end of the day, you're saying that we.
So I don't know if you heard.
It's just so hard to now transition to a whole online type of thing, and especially we're paying all this money. I mean, not me. The students are paying all this money to learn. So I just feel is it monetarily, is it worth it? Yeah, is it monetarily worth it? Like, shouldn't you take a gap year? Shouldn't you just like see what happens and weigh your options instead of spending money
Can
on
I
something
answer that
you're not
question?
getting before we turn back?
Can I answer?
Yeah, I mean, anyone. I mean, like, just
Community
monetarily.
college. Community
Huh?
college. I think community college is the answer, and I'll tell you
But
why.
then it's online, you know.
Well,
Doesn't
well,
really-
well. So
It's cheaper.
Keon's
It's a lot
Keon's question was simple: is university worth it right now? I think that given the it's new territory, right? Whether you're
Yeah.
a veteran researcher at a UC or a veteran teacher at a community college, a veteran professor, you're. I'll comment on that in a second, Sky. Thank you. You're going to need to adapt. You're going to need to get a bunch of new skills that you haven't had before. And you're going to see struggle and mishap at the beginning, whether you're at an esteemed institution or a community college. So I think get your general education credits done at a community college. The classes that you, and this is really important, don't care about, the classes that you do not want to pursue a profession in, the classes that you have the feeling that I have to take this anyway. So if you need to go to university for your profession, which is the vast majority of us, you want to take those gen ed classes at a community college, then transfer to a four-year institution whenever you want, really. And I think that's an effective way of spending your money and staying productive. Keon suggested a gap year. You can take a gap year if you're privileged enough to have the ability to take a gap year. Sure, take a gap year.
I think that applies more to people who are entering college, though. So I mean, I think
that's what Keon was talking about.
I mean, it's just any circle. I mean, like if you're enrolled already, if you're going into college. But I do agree. I mean, Kia, I didn't even think about it. I mean, that's a great idea, just to get your jet ed,
Exactly.
like your class out of the way, and spend like literally 1/4 of the price, like, or even cheaper. I mean, dude, it's not expensive. Community college compared to universities are not. So I sort of see that as a good solution. That's not a bad solution.
I wanted to kind of steer because Monica made me think of something interesting, or all of you did, is that this transition to online learning, for example, or even in the workplace, right? The offices, like Zara and Baptiste are saying too. It's like, I think the world post COVID, a lot of us are going to have to fight for not transitioning online. And I think what's going to happen is they're going to want to transition everything online. There'll be that kind of urge to do so. It'll be like, oh, it's more efficient, it's more this, it's more that. But those of us who work in professions or who require human contact, we're gonna have to really, fight to not make everything virtual.
I think Daria I kind of wanted to touch on what you were talking about, because you mentioned fighting to not go virtual, and I think that this pandemic definitely reveals a lot of privilege some people have over others, because you have students who are low income. They don't necessarily have the best internet. They don't have the resources or tools to study from home. And you have kids who are, from low income families, but, they're really bright and they excel in these in-person classes. So I definitely feel worried that, this whole pandemic is going to create sort of a have and have not society. Because when you have people who can obviously afford online tutors or like Chegg or even like a new MacBook or like high-speed internet, they're going to be a lot more of an advantage than people who are, kids who are homeless or kids who have all these other factors, or, even kids who have abusive families where they can't focus and they study at school and school is their safe ground. So I think that this pandemic thing is definitely going to reveal a lot of what you have and how well, that's going to play into your future.
Yeah, I think the scariest slogan, there's a lot of slogans running around right now in the States. Zara, I don't know if on your side of the world, what kind of slogans they're throwing out, but here I think the scariest one we have is alone together.
Oh,
And I kind of wanted to
Yeah.
touch upon what you guys were saying in the way beginning about, it's just not that this isolation is just, it's not the same. You can't, it doesn't, whatever void of contact that there is, it can't be filled with online chatting, right? So I think that they're already trying, I think that our industrial systems are already trying to implement this, get used to being alone, get used to it, because that's what it's going to be from now on. You're going to spend the majority of your life alone in a box in your room. So we have to kind of fight against that as much as we can, but within reason.
you're teetering on conspiracy,
I
but I
agree with
like the
that.
message.
I know.
I see Keon.
There's a problem with the United States. Every time you say anything like this,
No. I think that.
conspiracy. Like, whoa,
No. Like I said, I like that you're purporting these ideas. I like to hear your opinion. And I see Keon.
Right? I didn't say Uncle Sam. I didn't say.
No. No, it's all good. Keon, let's
I
go.
wanted to bring this up even before when Monica was stemming off what you were saying, Daria. Like, I wanted to say, like, basically say that I believe that, like you saying that how we should fight against the whole like online thing or just virtual. What were you talking about?
I was saying that not all those of us that require human contact for jobs or just general.
Yeah.
I think we should be, we shouldn't be afraid to fight for that.
Oh.
You're not an idiot. You're not a COVID idiot or whatever the hell they're trying to label you as. You know.
I completely
You're a human
agree.
being.
I completely agree with you, but I feel like just because of society and how it's moving, and we're always trying to change and I guess make it better through technology. I feel like the virtual reality world, I know it's already been like pushing, but I feel like it's going to be a huge push. Like virtual reality is going to be something where it's going to be to the next level where sadly alone together is going to be a slogan that I feel like we're going to hear a lot. That's what I believe, sadly, because like as you said, like people who actually make a like matters, like push things or progressive in this country, who have the say in this country, are sort of pushing for that virtual world, because I guess it's the new, I guess, I feel like it's have a lot of value at the end of the day, because I mean, we don't know how long we're going to be isolated, how long we're going to be doing this. The coronavirus, I guess, is now forming a new virus that's like, I guess, a very rare virus that inflames the lungs. I forgot what it was like. I don't know. I was reading it. It was like 15 kids in like New York. So I don't know how long. We don't know how long this war against this virus is going to be. So I just feel like this virtual reality world is going to be a lot faster and a lot quicker due to our circumstances.
I have a couple of comments I have to interject. I'm so sorry. Okay. So a couple of them are about the stream, and then I have a lot to share. So I'm sorry, but this is going to be a lot. First of all, thank you, Sky Kim, for donating $8. We have met our incentive for the power adapter for the DSLR camera. You're going to see some HD Kia very soon. Thank you for that, Sky. Her message is, I love everyone. Thank you for your wholesome message, Sky. And Dirksy, a.k.a. Denny, yes, our Denny, has just subscribed with Twitch Prime. Thank you so much, Denny. Yeah, he's in the chat. Say hi. Thank you very much, Denny. I appreciate that support. Now, I have something positive to share. I have something negative to share. Let's start with the positive. So, what positive do I have to share? Yeah. It's a little unrelated, but might as well say it now. I think it is important to touch on those professions that don't require human contact. I was going to talk about streaming. Streaming has seen a rise in popularity since quarantine for obvious reasons. We would not be doing this podcast right now if there wasn't a quarantine. Full stop. Keon would be working. Baptiste would be working. So Monica would be in class, subbing, right? So this podcast would not be possible if we were not in quarantine. So Daria was saying I'm struggling to find some pros. Okay, well, let's throw that out there. I think that you'll see an increase in content creation, even more so than we have seen the explosion in the past. Everyone's going to start considering YouTube, Twitch, what have you, right? And these sort of loner professions, which they are, you're probably going to see an even bigger explosion in their popularity and in people entering that field. Now, what's the negative? I wanted to touch on, maybe Keon didn't mean to say this, but he said virtual reality. Well, I think he was touching more in like life on the internet, but I want to touch on VR and AR. I am not an economist. I do not advise you take my advice in terms of the stock market. But if you're a gambler, look into VR and AR companies right now. I think that, as Daria was saying, I completely agree. I think industrial society is pushing us towards, hey, you're alone, get used to it. Like, you're going to get Amazon Primed everything. Your groceries, your happiness, your sadness, we're going to throw that in an Amazon Prime box and send you depression. Get used to it, all right? I think that one of the most effective delivery systems for this is VR and AR, all right? We've all, I think, seen a video of a VR person having like VR sex with a blow-up doll, right? Have we all seen that?
Sure, dude.
Intense.
No, I'm not saying like you watched like a 5-minute video on this, but have you seen like it? Everyone's chiming in. Hold on.
That's weird.
You haven't seen it. Keon, what about you?
No, I haven't.
But
I
you
don't
gotta
know what
stretch
the fuck
your
you're talking
imagination.
about.
Okay, well, point is it's VR porn, okay? So,
Okay, with a sex doll though.
huh?
With a sex doll in real life.
So you're
Like
What I'm trying to say, well, you're confused because I haven't elaborated on it. So what I am trying to say, right? So there's VR porn. It's like there's like the person in front of you, and you know they're not actually there. They're just in your VR headset. What I'm talking about with the blow up doll is AR combined with VR. So you have the blow up doll, but augmented reality puts the face and the facial expressions and the movements and the noises. So it combines the physical with the virtual. So we're getting close to like some Matrix stuff now, right? I think that we can actually learn from the Matrix. We can touch on it. And you have to choose, I think, early, do you want to be red pilled or blue pilled, to touch on that conspiracy, edgy sort of side of things. It's like Daria was saying, you can choose to reject culture and you can choose to reject if there's a big push for VR and AR, which I do think there will be, not just for porn, right? For many things, like a VR AR concert, for example. Right.
sporting events, bro. Oh my
Sporting events, exactly. You might see a lot more of that. Everyone has a front row seat. Why wouldn't you do it, right?
Yeah, the things that they were already starting it, like the basketball was the NBA was already starting virtual reality, like watching, where you can literally buy a seat on the stadium while it's going.
I believe
you
it.
can have literally a 360 view of everything around you. So this is going to be this is literally going to push it to the next.
So that's my prediction, and you might see a lot of this being pushed, and hey, if you like it, more the power to you. You're gonna see this technology develop rapidly. You're going to see a lot more applications of it, but it's okay to go against the grain if you prefer interacting in real life, if you prefer going to a game in real life. I don't think that humans are built to sustain themselves on VR and AR. So that's the really wild tangent. I wanted us to transition from professional changes to societal changes, and I just dropped a bomb on you guys. Now, I rudely interrupt Monica. Is that thought basically canceled because I strayed us too far, or did you still want to share?
Actually, I don't know. I guess you can let me know on how this matches. But I was saying, how after this pandemic, we're thinking about, obviously we have virtual versus IRL.
Yeah.
I don't know. So I know that these are two options that are being brought up, but I don't know why, in a post-COVID world, why aren't we talking about, implementing new sanitizing like practices? Because I think that the answer isn't necessarily, we should just go online. Yeah, it's safer, but I mean, for those of us who don't want to do that, why is there no talks of, maybe we should have, more sanitizing bottles. We should have more hand washing stations. We should have, new regulations on how often we have to stay clean and like
That's
not
a
musty.
That's a rhetorical question. That's the dark side, I think.
Oh,
I think
very
I think
edgy.
that-
What do you mean the dark side?
I mean, sorry to interrupt you, Monica. I couldn't hold back. I feel like that was a rhetorical question, in that it's like in it
It's
being
not gonna happen.
He's saying it's
very
inevitable,
dark.
I think.
It's saying that like the sanitation stuff and all that, which I would argue should totally be the route we should be going down.
Mhm.
That stuff, watch it never get implemented, kind of dismissed, and it'll totally be on purpose.
Yeah, I agree with you that it's totally not sort of something everybody's like focusing on as an obvious solution, which it should be.
You don't
But
see
I
it.
mean, like even right now, I think this is really stupid. How like they have food workers being required to wear gloves. I think it's so stupid that they're wearing gloves, but how often are these gloves being changed?
That's the real
like you're
question. Yeah, my mom
you're
brings that up
touching
all the
money.
time.
Yeah, you're touching money, and then you're touching other people's food, and then you're touching around. It defeats the purpose of wearing gloves. So I don't know why there's such an emphasis on, we should be moving towards virtual stuff to avoid, spreading viruses. I think you should be focusing on yourself. Like, hey, how are you going to be cleaner? How are you going to be more sanitary? And how are you going to be more mindful of what you do so that you don't spread viruses and stuff? And I agree,
Right.
it's not necessarily going in that. Sorry, what were you saying?
Oh no, I
I
think
think,
Keanu. Right. Oh, Zara, sorry.
Yeah.
I was just going to say that I think that things like sanitation could lead to another kind of level of, because coming from a human rights perspective, there are countries who like they don't even have like the most basic sanitation, and I think it's going to add a level of, I don't know, like, we're doing everything that we can to make like our society better and everything, but it's just like so complicates things in terms of like we're not even getting like resources to countries who like can't even get running water and like flushing toilets, and like we don't even know what the situation over there is because it's not being like covered properly and there's not enough data and everything. And like just sanitation is such, like, we thought before COVID that we were like good and like everything, and it's just gonna add another layer of just, not that I'm saying we don't need to focus on sanitation, but I think like everyone needs to. It's crazy.
I think kind of going off on that, I mean, like, how Keon was bringing up, is it worth spending all this money on going virtual and all this tech? And I think that arguably, comparatively, buying a kid a Chromebook, obviously, right now going into virtual instruction, buying a kid a Chromebook could buy a lot of, resources for people who need those things. And obviously, right now all kids have Chromebooks, but you're moving into people who are paying like hundreds of dollars per semester for WebAssign or Course Hero or Chegg or whatever it is. And I think that it's kind of dumb to focus on, changing into a new area where, being in a classroom for the most part works. So why would we spend all this money and energy trying to move into a virtual thing when we can spend all that attention elsewhere where it's, more crucial to our health to be sanitary and all that stuff rather than being at home on a computer where obviously it doesn't benefit everybody.
I think that tantalizing question deserves a well-thought response. And do you know what that means? It's time for our second break. So everyone, get a nice refresher, get up, drink some water. I'll be running a brief 30-second ad. We'll be back from break in roughly a minute. You guys stay tuned. We're going to have a great response to that question. And we're back. We've had some time to refresh ourselves and to ponder the question that Monica will kindly repeat.
Yeah, so I was asking you guys if you guys agree, why are we spending so much money on moving into a new uncharted territory of virtual when we can move into implementing more sanitization resources and materials that can help everybody rather than the few that virtual does?
Keon
And I
is
think
politely
Keon's
raising his hand.
It's pure selfishness. It's safer bet to make a good return. I mean, like, what are you gonna like? People are investing all this, like people. It's a money game at the end of the day, right? It's a business that is pushing, these to make our life a lot more sanitized. Put these sanitized stations here and there. It costs a lot of money. Where's the return gonna be? I feel like if you put more return on invest in virtual reality, which is gonna limit the contact with people, so less chances of viruses or any type of things. I just feel like the return for people to make money is a lot. It's just a safer bet. I just feel like at the end of the day, it's a money game. So that's what.
Is it like? Are you trying to say like they're trying to break it off into like a have and have-nots sort of thing?
What are the haves and what are the have-nots?
Like, if you can afford to have all this new resources, cool, you're going to be benefiting. But if you can't, then like, who cares? Like, you're not really important.
I think Keon's simply trying to say like, why would we put effort into adding all of this sanitization infrastructure and we're not going to reap the benefits when we could simply go online, and there are many cost-saving measures for industrial societies to go online. And it's dystopian. Sure, there are many detriments, but hey, profit over literally everything, right?
It's profit over at the end of the day. It's profit over anything, in my opinion.
Zara's gearing up for an answer.
Yeah, I personally think that. So I think my general worldview is that kind of life, or the world and society is like a pendulum, and it's going to swing one way, and then when it gets to its tipping point, it's going to swing the other way. And I think this may be, I don't know, again, my opinion,
Revolution.
But that it could be the breaking point for maybe capitalism and swinging the opposite direction, because
Keon's happy to hear that.
Like, you're gonna widen the gap so much that like people are fucking over this shit, and like it's just gonna, I think that it's gonna go the other direction eventually. And things like climate change, it had such momentum up until this point, and now nobody's fucking talking about it, and things like that, where eventually people are going to get really tired of that. And I mean, here in the UK, there's social health care and everything, and you're seeing in the US the disparities between health for Black people and white people, and the fact that Black people are dying at a higher rate because of coronavirus and stuff like that, where I think that it's showing a lot of gaps. And people are going to try and push to, keep going and invest in tech and get the people who are already ahead to be ahead even more. But at some point, there's going to be a breaking point, and people are going to be over it. And I think it could start swinging the other way.
I like that take. I hope you're right.
To stem off with Zara, because you literally brought, when you talked about global warming, I was talking like, Monica, don't you think ever since the slowdown of society, the world has sort of healed itself, like less pollution? I mean, like, I don't know, it just feels like vegetation, it just feels like wildlife. I mean, there's like, I just feel like it just,
that's what I was actually, that's kind of a funny thing that you brought up, because this whole coronavirus thing, it's kind of stupid, but this kind of makes me think about Thanos and the Avengers.
Oh la la.
Because like, okay, so here's my take. So obviously, like, nobody started, like, nobody's getting 5 gems and trying to like wipe out half the world. But I feel like the reality is that coronavirus is wiping out a lot of people, and it has a lot of negative effects. But one of the positive outcomes has been, since we're all staying at home, vegetation has improved. Earth has definitely, improved vastly. And I think that, a lot of people who are suffering from coronavirus are the people who can't necessarily afford. So, like, people who lose their jobs and, like, low incomes, they're the ones that's suffering. And the people who are, as you were saying, ahead of the curve, they're doing fine comparatively. And, they're not really suffering from that much compared to these other people. And I just feel like it's kind of like a Thanos effect where the people who already were in a shitty situation are kind of, struggling in this thing.
Daria's eager to
Uh,
answer.
No, I want to go off of Monica. I mean, you guys brought up a great point. Like it looks like the Earth is healing, right? I like there's just the only thing that there is just less carbon emissions. But for example, I was on which is great, but we are ignoring climate change a lot because like I'm going to the beach sometimes, strolling next to the beach, right? And
are you in Huntington Beach, Daria?
I know. I mean, I went to the
Fucking boomer.
Oxford was open. Port Hueneme was open, so I went, and I'm an idiot because you're never supposed to go to Oxnard. I went, and there were people on the beach. It was okay, and people were just social distancing. But when I went, I came back with my feet completely covered in tar, and then I realized that that always happens around that area. But then I was like, feels like there is. When I was swimming, I noticed I was swimming, right? I was so eager to like.
Daria, I haven't answered to your presumption, so I'll touch on that.
Let's see if I won't get to it because I mean I want to kind of touch with the EPA and all that.
Oh, that's what I didn't. I tell you that? Yeah, I was gonna say that.
Yeah,
Okay.
But when I was swimming, I first noticed when I was swimming in the water, and I saw like chunks of tar. Like I never see chunks of tar when I'm swimming, which is weird. Like on the surface of the water. Usually it's like in the sand, So I was like, oh crap. And then when I got out, I was like, oh my God, my feet, like no, And then the other day, yesterday actually, I went to Venice Beach, like just to walk around the canals and like the neighborhood. And I saw there were people on the beach. I was like, oh, weird, very isolated. But there were some people, and the lifeguards, and not the lifeguard, the patrol wasn't kicking anyone off. So I kind of like strolled on. I was like kind of looking around, like interested. And on my way back to the, to like the residential area, I like overheard these people that were like in their bathing suits or whatever, and they were like talking. And these are locals, right? That's why I bring them up. These are locals. They go, "Don't you think the water? Like, they're like something's weird." And then this lady was like. She's like, I've never seen the water that dirty. She's like, usually it's like, she's like, I know there's red tide and all this, with the phytoplankton, but she's like, the water's never been that brown murky. She's like, there's something strange going on. And they're like joking about it, And then I was like, that caught my ear because I was like, I don't think they're wrong. I think there's like, because the EPA relaxed, not to get to the EPA, I think because they relaxed everything, that they're basically not functioning. It's kind of a carte blanche to pollute as much as you want, and this kind of like there's kind of this smoke screen of, oh look, the Earth is healing, this pocket of ozone is covering up, but don't look at the ocean. that's we'll get there, we'll get to that. And that's like crazy. I mean it's really, they're destroying. I mean, once they destroy nature, we won't have any choice but to stay inside.
So I guess that ties into the conspiracy narrative pretty well, but it is true. So for those of you who don't know, the EPA is allowing companies to self-govern on their emissions. And boy, we know they sure have the environment's best interests at heart, so that'll go fine, right? Well, no. What's going to happen is, as Daria is saying, I would imagine that you'll see, well, nobody's outside, so we can't see the effects of all these like ramped up emissions, but you'll hear about it. Maybe it'll be an excess of CO2 in the atmosphere. Maybe it will be localized pollution, such as in rivers and oceans. Maybe it'll be affecting the groundwater. We're not sure yet, but I am positive that while there is less pollution in the air in Los Angeles, for example, because there are less drivers, yes, pollution from driving is a lot lower than what it normally is. We're going to see other sources of pollution ramp up in the U.S. at the very least because of these lax EPA restrictions on pollution right now.
Yeah, I don't know. The animals are coming back, sure, maybe one or two, but how many are dying? I mean, I saw a pelican covered in tar on
Are you serious?
Beach,
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty. Yeah, that kind of ruined my day. When I just kind of, I didn't know what to do. I don't have any cleaning equipment with me. There's no lifeguard you can call. They're all out. There's nothing open to even signal that there's like animals covered in tar on the beach, and people are just walking by it. Oh, that's sad.
Well, that's like the quote unquote. Actually, I don't want to get too political, but yeah, a lot of people will call out issues and then do nothing about them. I think that's a common theme, especially in America, but throughout the rest of the world. It's like, this is wrong, and then like does absolutely nothing and changes nothing in their lives to address that wrongdoing.
I think so. I want to say that the world post-corona, well, I guess the United States. Either the United States gets comfortable with piping up more and acting upon all that, the things they're saying, or either you silently accept your fate. That's going to be the tipping point. That's going to be it. And I would even argue, if it gets that bad, just leave. I think there should be a mass exodus from the United States.
All right. I don't think that's realistic. But
Kia, you brought up
Gozar?
big businesses and everything. But what do you guys think what do you think is going to happen to small businesses? That are kind of going under and having trouble now.
Well, I can actually answer this because my mom is a small business owner. There's a loan that they're giving out in the US called the PPP, I believe. And you've seen a lot of companies abuse this loan. Like, some people are not able to get access to this loan, and some people are getting way more than they need because of all of the small shell companies that they have, and they're basically using this to just increase their net worth. There was a astonishing figure that the top 1% increased their net worth by 200 billion during the past 2 months, and that is an obvious abuse of the stimulus packages of Again, I don't want to get too political here, but let's just focus on small businesses then. I think what you'll see is a continuation of the ongoing trend of the elimination of the small business. We're not favoring the middle class in America. Whether you believe that or not, it's okay. You can look it up. It's just a trend that the middle class is shrinking. So you'll see a division into poverty and extreme wealth. And it's just an increase in the the rampant injustice that we have and the socioeconomic differences. And Keon looks like he's about ready to cry. So is there something you wanted to share, Keon?
No. I'm just listening to all this and sadly agreeing to everything that's changed.
Okay.
Yeah, it looks really bleak.
I think that's an appropriate response to what we're saying, which again is our opinions. Okay, so let's not take it as fact. But go ahead, Zara.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Well, I mean, as someone who wants to go into nonprofit work, it's kind of like even though there's a lot of shit going on right now, I think it is showing more intensely kind of what the areas of improvement are.
Okay.
And hopefully people are going to use that to, I think funding in a lot of nonprofit areas is going to shift. And, hopefully, I mean, it does look pretty bleak, but hopefully maybe we can try and rebuild and take some innovation and learn how to deal with some of these issues from the ground up rather than just dealing with kind of the symptoms of a problem. I don't know.
I think that's optimistic, but in a good way. I like that thought. I think it should be evident to Americans that employer-based health insurance, for example, doesn't always work out. For example, during a pandemic, when you lose your job and then now you don't have health insurance, and let's say you get this virus, now what are you going to do? I've seen bills that go up to $40,000 for testing, which is silly. Or maybe it's treatment. Like I said, it's an opinion, so I could be wrong. It may be treatment, but 40,000 was the figure. Now, how is that possible? I mean, it's just lobbying, and you ramp up the bill for okay, well, the testing.
No, not just for testing, right? It's testing and treatment.
Perhaps treatment and testing.
Okay.
But point is, I think people are seeing that it's not sustainable to have employer-based health insurance if your employer can just fire you and your benefits disappear. So hopefully, like Zara is saying, it can be a wake-up call for some people who were fired, for example, to start supporting movements that don't necessarily have employer-based health insurance. Yeah. So, any finishing thoughts on anything we did not touch on that you think will be a change in societal norms based off of post-COVID world? Kian.
I wrote this down because it was a while ago, and Daria said that he lists a lot of cons in the art space in the world, and what's gonna happen after. And I do believe that there's gonna be cons, but I, as a hopeful listener and of music, I do believe that the artists who do have the capability of recording things at home, I feel like art will improve. I feel like a lot of people will make the best art they can, write the best things they can in this time because they're locked in their rooms. And I feel like people who are locked in isolation usually come up with the best stuff as artists, in my opinion, as creators.
Don't you need inspiration and et cetera, et
Uh-oh.
cetera? And perhaps four walls aren't the most, productive.
I don't know, man. I just know when I'm by myself with my thoughts, that's when I create the most. So, and I just feel like,
of course, because you were outside experiencing the world, now you can shut yourself in and ruminate. But what happens when you don't have any more new experiences?
But
you don't have anything to write about.
You're telling me that you've only had a year of life prior to this. There's people who've dedicated their lives to art have lived a life, 16 to plus years of life.
No, not have lived, are living.
Are living, yes, are living. Yeah, but right now their life has stopped.
Kian, let me ask you a question. Have you listened to Chance the Rapper's last album?
It was trash.
Okay, why? Why was it trash? It was about quotidian life. It was about I love my wife, right? So it was like it was a lack of inspiration. It was like I'm living at home and my life is comfortable and this is my album and it was shit.
No, his album was trash, but did you listen to the singles?
An extreme case, yeah.
His singles were so good. If one man can change the world. Was the other one Security? One was like,
yeah, but Keon, that's when he was out frolicking.
Dude, no, I'm telling you,
that's when he wasn't on a tandem bike with his wife at the beach.
Pandemic over, we're gonna have great movies, great music, and great things to look at. So I'm just telling you.
Hey, we'll see. We'll see if you're right. We'll see, guys. We'll see if he's right. We'll see.
I truly believe that. There's no way the greatest creatives in the world are not right now creating something great. There's no way. You're telling me that people are sitting down and not doing anything creative?
No, I'm saying that'll run out if you're not careful. It's not a.
But the things that Daria, life.
Inspiration's only a deep well. Creativity is only a deep well, and all that. If you don't have it covered up, if you keep it open.
Daria, do you know if you're gonna be healthy tomorrow?
I mean, I don't know anything about tomorrow.
So that's what I'm saying. And especially nowadays, no one really knows if you're gonna be healthy or not this day. tomorrow. So that's why I'm saying creatives are. I just feel like as a creative myself who doesn't create as much as other people, I feel like that's. I mean, like I want to read books. I'm writing, and I don't like writing. I'm fucking writing. Like that's you know what I'm saying. I just feel like we're cooked up, and we're like forced to be cooked up. There's no way creatives are not making something great right now.
What if the creatives get depressed that they're cooped up? I'm just saying. For every point you make, there's like a strong counterpoint.
I understand that. I completely understand that.
So is it fair to say some creatives will see great inspiration, but others will struggle?
Okay, I just think like I just feel like there's a lot of Beatles songs are dedicated to Liverpool because they didn't experience anything outside of Liverpool. And what was so beautiful about it? It was so homey, so connected. That's why I feel like
there's a pretty strong argument there. Nobody gives a fuck about the early Beatles. You can't compare like.
Wait, no one.
You can't compare. I want to hold your hand.
We're done here. We're done.
I want to hold your hand.
Keon muted himself and turned off his camera.
And you could argue that Across the Universe was a product that, because at that time they traveled all over the world, experienced life, that they were humans.
We've come full circle. We became a music podcast. It's called In Tune, and it's a music podcast now.
Greatest songs ever written. You go fuck yourself, bro.
But then,
all right. Hold on. Zara wants to share something. You two are acting like simians. Let's let Zara share something.
Daria, you were saying about traveling and everything. Speaking of traveling, what's going to happen with the tourism and hospitality industry?
Wow. RIP. Wow. RIP. Hotels turned into homeless shelters. That's what happens.
Like, does anyone have plans to take a little vacation?
Okay, low key though. Once this is over, I want to go on a cheap flight. Low key.
What do you mean, when this is over? Do you mean, like
2021-ish?
Sorry?
Like in the early, let's say the day stuff opens up, I'm going to be looking for tickets. That's what I'm trying to say.
Opens up as in we can go outside.
Like life as normal continues.
When is life as normal going to continue?
2021-ish, I'm guessing.
Okay.
It won't be normal though.
I don't know. I feel like traveling is gonna be fucked. I mean, I have a ticket to France for July 20th. Let's see what happens.
I was supposed to go to Europe this summer as well. That's not gonna happen.
Yeah. Even if I do manage to get there,
let's go to Vegas and then May.
Well, let me ask you guys a question. Do you think it's possible that we do a whole episode on traveling after COVID-19, or do you think that that's too short of a topic?
Too short.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I wanted to just segue into finishing thoughts.
You could add something to it.
Yeah, no, we could. I wanted to segue into any finishing thoughts that you guys had. I want to wrap things up, go down and have some lunch. So we'll go one by one. Is there anything you want to add? Let's start with Bap. Batiste? We don't hear you, buddy.
Oh, I didn't hear you say my name. My bad.
Okay, I was saying, is there any finishing thought that you had before we leave?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's see. I can see that California, we're getting into stage 1 soon, so that's some bit of good news. But there's still dumbasses in Huntington and just old people protesting. So we're probably going to go back to stage 0 at some point.
Agreed.
Other than that, I'm saying life after it won't go back to normal for a minute, at least probably like a year and a half to 2 years, because people are still going to be scared of everything. We haven't found the cure, probably won't, because it takes a while. So I mean, let's just enjoy ourselves on these Zoom calls. Now.
All right, good message, Keon. I was happy at one point in the podcast, and I got hella depressed, and I got angry at music. You must have some final. What is your final thought? Yeah.
Keanu, the 5 stages of grief.
Yeah.
No, I just sort of like what Baptiste said. I just want people to not have high expectations on having a normal life again. There's gonna be changes. Life always changes, in my opinion, but slowly. But now it's gonna abruptly change very quickly. I mean, just think about yourself. There's a lot of time, so just think about yourself. And I just hope that the people that can make the right that are making decisions for this country and for this world are making the right decisions. So
Okay.
yeah.
Good answer. Good answer.
Beautiful.
Daria, our resident conspiracy theorist, and Red Pill. I think
Yeah.
Red Pillar, right? Is that the right?
Way to disparage me.
Alex Jones. You should change toaster.
I could never.
Jones.
No, I'm just
Come back
kidding.
now.
I'm just kidding. He's a good guy. He's smart. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, No, just think about. Well, I guess it kind of ruins what I want to say, but I mean, like, think about, like, be careful with the virus. You know, stay healthy. Take your precautions. Don't forget to take your precaution, and don't be relaxed about taking precautions, right? But then, hand in hand with that, don't let the virus become your whole life.
True.
There are other important things out there that really need your attention right now.
Yes.
Environment just being one of them.
You can be productive in isolation. Good message. Zara, our first timer, our freshman. What do you have to share with the class?
Well, I think that like one thing we didn't get to talk much about was like mental health and stuff. I'm sure a lot of people are really depressed over this, and it's understandable. And like trying not to make sure you feel like you're getting behind on anything right now. Because everyone's kind of being pushed back, and a lot of people are going to say, "Oh, I'm using this experience to like push forward and everything." They can only go so far right now. So I think, I'm not going to say stay positive because it's looking bleak, but like any fire that ravages anywhere, like there's going to be a rebirth, and things are going to change, but maybe possibly for the better. In the long term, it's going to take a while to see those results.
This will be a throwback reference, but as fire refertilizes the land and the earth, coronavirus will refertilize human seed, and there will be many babies born from this coronavirus. Anyway, we got young Monica to wrap up, to end off the stream. What are your final thoughts?
I don't know. It's just real sad boy hours lately. So
Monica?
We sad boys out here.
To end it on a positive note.
You cut off there, Mon.
I was saying everything's real sad boy hours lately, so I don't know how to end this on a positive note because I'm a sad boy.
And before we end, I just want to share that Dirksy in the chat, Denny shares, it's going to be a slow return to normal, but major changes are happening. Working from home is getting very popular, and that might have a permanent impact on our lives and on companies. 100%, Danny. We definitely touched on that earlier, and we agree. And to end this on a positive note, I just want to reiterate Zara's message. Whatever you're doing, do it 100%. If you're cleaning, clean at 100%. If you're sleeping, sleep at 100%. But I mean that. Like, try not to half-ass anything. Stay productive. Be happy with what you're doing. Get some sunlight. Try to get 15 minutes of sunlight. Get some vitamin, I think, D from the sun.
D, yes. D.
Yeah. Get your vitamin D from the
As in
sun. If you can, stay healthy, stay active. Getting 90 minutes of aerobic exercise can greatly improve your mental health, improve your day-to-day productivity, your sleep, even your appetite. Really everything. So stay happy, stay healthy, do things at 100%, enjoy yourselves, and look forward to the day that everything goes back to normal. That's how we can end on a positive note. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for joining me. Très bien, merci. And we have had a wonderful talk, and we'll find out what we can talk about next week. We'll keep you guys in touch, but for now, you've been in tune with Kia Joon. Bye-bye.